Does AEW have a problem, Cronus? That is the question.
To an extent,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's quite a loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. A.I.W. here. I'm the Honorary Zeus, joined by Cronus the Bear, as always.
Yeah.
We're doing this video because, well, we're kind of piggybacking on what seems to be a hot topic. I think not afraid to admit that.
No.
And I think this is such a loaded question, and we want to approach this with as much kind of honesty and, genuine unbias as possible. I know there's kind of a perception within the wrestling community that it's cool to hate on AEW, and people hate on AEW for clicks and views and stuff. Well, if you look at our channel, we ain't doing it for clicks and views. I'll tell you that right now. Clicks and views aren't our strong point at the moment, so this is just us. Just us as wrestling fans. We've been AEW lifers since day one. And, Cronus and I, recently, I'd say, I think 2024 has been a really roller coaster year, especially from, my preference when it comes to AEW. So we're going to talk about what we think might be happening within AEW that is causing a kind of general decline in interest in the product. So I thought we'd start off with some facts, Cronus. Just facts and logic based on what's happening with AEW generally. So I've got here the year-over-year ticket sales and ratings for, let's just stick to Dynamite because no one cares about Rampage and Collision. It's on a Saturday night. It's always going to be a tough sell. So if we start with the first quarter of this year, so January to March, the ratings for AEW Dynamite in that quarter were 11% down on the previous year, in 2023. In the second quarter, which is April to June, the ratings were down. This is total viewership, by the way. They were down 17% from the previous year. Quarter three, which is August to September. Sorry, not August, September, the third quarter. That was down 21% from the previous year. And quarter four, which is October to, where we are now, down 26% from the previous year. So you can see there's kind of been like a steady decline in interest in watching the show. And that's only compared to last year. 2022 was even higher kind of thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think their high point recently, in recent history, was February 2023, where they hit 1 million viewers. That was the last time they hit 1 million viewers. And now they're down to mid 500s,
Right.
which is quite a substantial drop.
Steep.
On average, yeah. And just to go into it a bit further, the key demographic, which is what advertisers rely on, which is the male 18 to 49. In quarter four this year, compared to last year, it's down 31%.
Savage.
So there's obviously a decline in interest in watching the product. And, I see, people can make excuses whether they're up against XYZ, who cares? They weren't up against the same things last year. Of course they were. So in terms of that, so that's obviously something that an executive such as Tony Khan would see as a problem because, nobody wants people to stop consuming their product on a continuous declining basis. Now, ticket sales. This is tickets distributed in this quarter. So AEW Dynamite, quarter one this year, 2024, ticket distributed were down 27% from the previous year. Quarter two, they were down 29%. Quarter three, down 21%. And quarter four so far, down 28%. So there's also a decline in people attending the weekly shows. We don't really see this with the pay-per-views. And I think we're starting to build a picture here as to what any kind of problem in terms of retaining customer interest might be. So, Cronus, you mentioned to me before we went on the stream that where AEW shines and has always shined is its in-ring product, work rate, and the stars that they have. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, and it still is at the moment.
Yeah.
Even with sort of the, so you could call it, I don't know if it's inconsistent, it's just not very good booking, sort of stories going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
But match quality is definitely still there. You've still got some of the best in the world.
Yep.
Doing their thing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I think AEW has probably in terms of raw talent, it probably has the best roster ever assembled in wrestling.
Yeah, I think so.
Across the men and the women's division. And I've always said, you know, when it comes to comparing WWE to AEW, they both excel in certain things and they both struggle in certain things. But I think of two companies who have so much money and have so much, you know, power and control when it comes to WWE. I don't see any excuse not to give us both great in-ring and great storytelling on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
There's just no excuse. So anyway, we're not here to talk about WWE. We will reference them if we need to, but this isn't about a comparison. So when it comes to the question of does AEW have a problem, I think it ultimately depends on who you ask. So, and I guess it also depends on what AEW's goal is. You know, if their goal is to just put on great wrestling and not have a big focus on stories, then from their point of view, I don't think they do have a problem. And, you know, we can talk about declining ratings and declining ticket sales. But at the end of the day, Tony Khan's got loads of money and just signed a new $500 million TV deal. So from his point of view, you know, everything's great, as it always is.
He does love that word.
Then when I heard about this TV deal, obviously there's people like, yeah, we want AEW to get a TV deal, and I don't really care if they get a TV deal as long as it's on television. It's good. I don't really care.
Yeah, if there's somewhere I can watch it.
Yeah, exactly. But I did have my worries because you remember what happened when WWE got their big Saudi deals and they got their 2019 deal with Fox. They got really lazy and the product sucked because I've got my money now. You know, who cares? I've just been paid $500 million for 5 years worth of televised product. You know, where is the inspiration for me to put the effort in to make things better? I'm not saying that is what's happened.
No.
But it feels like it at the moment. Because I think since that TV deal, from the booking side from AEW, for me personally, it hasn't been great, and it's been inconsistent. Stuff hasn't made sense, almost to a frustrating level given the talent involved.
Yeah.
I don't think I never thought I would be so disinterested in a program with Adam Cole and MJF. Do you know what I mean? I just don't. It's just it doesn't make sense why it's happening. It shouldn't be happening. They should have just left it. It just doesn't make sense, and it kind of lowers my interest in two wrestlers that I really like from a promo perspective and an in-ring perspective.
Yeah, both brilliant.
Yeah,
but I'd rather see them both doing different things. They don't have to go back to this, really.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a strange decision to revisit this after it was apparently buried when MJF first came back and brain busted Adam Cole, and we thought that was it. And then they swapped the heel face dynamic and tried to make sense of it, and it didn't really work, and here we are.
Yeah.
And now they're fighting for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. So it's just one example of things that have kind of... I still watch every week because I know there's always a potential for fantastic matches. I want the company to succeed, and every now and then they hit on something storyline wise. Do you know what I mean? Every now and then. So, you know, Punk and MJF, Hangman and Swerve, Hangman, Kenny Omega, Mariah May, Tony Storm.
Yeah, it's not like they're unable to tell good stories.
Yeah.
They have done.
Exactly, and this is why I brought this up on social media, where I asked, do you think that this kind of recent drop in storytelling quality, is it down to incompetence or laziness? And most people said incompetence. What do you think?
Well, there was that whole little debacle around Jimmy Jacobs, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And him supposedly being, was it a right-hand man? Or
Yeah.
pretty high up in there and being responsible for a lot of this so-called like poor booking, inconsistent booking.
Yeah.
And everyone thought after he got let go, it would just skyrocket again, but it hasn't quite, has it?
No, it doesn't feel any different. I don't know if Jimmy Jacobs was used as a scapegoat. It's not uncommon for people who own companies, if it's badly performing, to kind of, scapegoat. So we were just talking about it with our football team, weren't we? Where, if the owner is the problem, he sacks the manager as a, brush stuff under the carpet. It resets the fans for a bit, and then we repeat the cycle. I don't think Jimmy Jacobs was the problem. I don't, because
I have no idea, but clearly he wasn't.
No, and ultimately everything goes through Tony Khan, because Tony Khan is a wrestling fan, which is fine. We're all wrestling fans. And if I was a die-hard wrestling fan and I owned a wrestling company, I'm sure there's a part of me that would want to do all the booking as well, because it's a lifelong dream, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't want to give it to anyone else, even though I probably should. It's mine, and it's my dream. And if I'm not booking the show, then I'm not living my dream. I'm running a business. So I don't think that any second-hand, right-hand man is the problem. Tony Khan was quoted this year to say he had up to 27 people in the writing team coming up with ideas. That's too many, isn't it?
Yeah. Too many cooks can spoil the broth.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that team, to see what ideas get proposed, what ideas get rejected, why, the kind of rationale behind what appears on TV. I mean, there are some things this year that have appeared on TV, and I thought, how the hell did this get through Tony Khan? Like, who the hell signed this off, kind of thing. So I think in terms of there's something that's changed. I think maybe something we're not aware of, because I think when you look back to even earlier this year, I thought, when Revolution happened, one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah, it was great.
And the weeks before and after that on Dynamite were really good. And Tony Khan was quoted this year at the beginning of the year saying 2024 AEW is going to be the new 2021 AEW. And at this point, either he was lying or he thought 2021 was rubbish as well. And 2021 was great.
Yeah, it was pretty decent.
Yeah. And I see some people saying, 2021 wasn't that good, it's just nostalgia. And that's 3 years ago. It's not 20 years. It's not the Attitude Era we're talking about. That's nostalgia. I remember 2021 AEW vividly. And as much as there was some weird, corny stuff, it was still kind of like, pandemic era, especially the first half. But they say, don't they, restore the feeling. Danny Garcia wears that cringe little shirt. And I think that's the feeling that they want to restore. And the fact that AEW are putting out a slogan saying restore the feeling indicates that they think there's a problem.
Yeah, we wouldn't need to restore it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you can't say everything's great and then say restore the feeling. Anyway, I thought the period surrounding Revolution, I thought for wrestling in general, because that was Mania season. Mania season was great this year. Revolution was great. That kind of springtime this year was fantastic for wrestling. And I think I said to you, it was like probably the only time where WWE and AEW at the same time were putting out their best stuff.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
Top-notch stuff at the time.
Yeah.
It was a bold claim to make about 2024 being the new 2021 for AEW. I mean,
yeah,
if you're putting out that stuff at the time and you expected that to continue,
yeah,
fair enough, but hasn't really. unfortunately.
No, and also what you're doing when you put a statement out saying that 2024 is going to be the new 2021, what you're basically saying is that 2023 and 2022 were shit.
Yeah.
I thought
That way.
I thought 2023 was a very up and down year for AEW. 2023 was the first time I watched AEW pay-per-views and thought, oh, that wasn't that good. You know, Double or Nothing, World's End, 2 pay-per-views I thought were kind of well below what they're capable of producing.
Yeah, they do set a high bar there,
yeah,
to be fair.
They do, yeah. And I think this year I thought Full Gear was the recent pay-per-view, I think, was probably their weakest. Just because of the kind of lack of excitement going in, because the weekly television was just not where it needed to be. And that does have an effect. And you know, what Tony Khan cannot do and should not do is just sack off weekly television and say, oh, don't worry, the performers are going to deliver on pay-per-views. And that's not how it works. And I'm not going to give him a pass for that anymore.
No.
Because we want good, compelling weekly television. The reason this topic has come up this week, I don't know if you know, Kronus, ironically, was because of the New Day.
Right.
So the New Day on Monday obviously had a very, very good segment, and
They did.
It's probably the most interesting the New Day's been in many, many years. And I thought everyone played their role fantastic. I thought it was unpredictable. I wasn't expecting it to go that way.
Yeah.
They had to pivot, obviously, because of the Odyssey Jones situation. So I thought the segment was great. Big E's fantastic. It was great to see him back. And they're both such great, underrated mic workers when they're serious.
Yeah.
All 3 of them,
They
sorry.
really are.
And I must have missed this because I went to work on Tuesday. When I came home, I saw loads of posts about even AEW fans are now criticizing AEW's booking. And I was like, well, this is something I never thought I'd see. It's quite a dedicated fan base, shall we say, to say the least.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's this come from? And apparently it was because they watched the New Day segment and they were wondering why they can't have those kinds of things on AEW. They're the ones that really kind of you invested emotionally.
Yeah. And they have done. I mean, with stuff like Hangman and Omega, I was really invested in that.
Yeah.
So it's achievable for them.
It is achievable, absolutely. And I don't know why it's not as common as it has been. There's only really 2 I can think of this year, and that's Mariah May, Tony Storm, and Hangman and Swerve. And a lot of Hangman and Swerve was in the back end of last year. And I do think that storyline wise, they've taken some risks this year, and they've put a lot of stock in things like the Elites takeover, which was a complete failure.
Yeah, that just sort of faded into nothing.
Yeah, and
you've still got Okada as a champion, just on his own now.
I know, and and Okada, since he's come to AEW, and we get that he's knackered and he's on a lighter schedule now, good for him. But his only real appeal in AEW, outside of wrestling a few times, was him being funny with the Bucks.
Yeah.
And now the Bucks are gone, and the Elite aren't a thing at the moment. He's just, on his own defending his Continental Classic. Thank God the Continental Classic's here.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Just save them a bit. Always good matches.
Yeah, but I think, and we know Tony's a wrestling fan, and one of Tony's heroes growing up was Eric Bischoff, because back then Bischoff, whatever you think of Bischoff now, he's a very important figure in pro wrestling history for what he was able to do in the late 90s.
Yeah, undeniably.
And it wouldn't surprise me if Tony Khan wanted to kind of replicate something relating to the NWO, because he tried it with the Bucks, it didn't work, and now he's sort of trying it with the Death Riders. And I'm still kind of, I'm going to give it a bit more time. It's been a while, I'm not massively up for it just yet, but I think it's had a bit more steam than the Bucks one did.
Yeah, certainly a lot of shock value that they've had recently.
Yeah, I think, suffocating people, pouring bleach in people's mouths is one way to, get people talking. And I'm all for that, shocking stuff in wrestling should be a thing. not too common, but yeah, every now and then.
To quote Eric, controversy creates cash.
It does, yeah. And you know, for everyone who wants to say that AEW is a failure and it sucks, well, they got $500 million from Warner Brothers, and you know, it becomes a question of how do you measure success as a wrestling company? You know, is it ratings, is it ticket sales, or is it hundreds of millions of dollars for you being on TV? I'm sure, you know, many people much more experienced than us would have different answers. You know, Bischoff would be a great person to ask. Dave Meltzer, you know, people give him shit, but you know, the man is a wrestling encyclopedia and has lots of experience in that kind of thing.
To be fair.
Yeah, Ted Turner. He's still alive, Ted Turner? I think he is, isn't he?
Surely not. It'd be like Mr. House in New Vegas by now.
Yeah.
He was way old back in the WCW days.
He was like Hogan, wasn't he? He always looked about 60.
Yeah.
Ted Turner, he is still alive. Yeah.
Okay.
He's 86 years old.
Okay.
Oh, there's
No mistake.
a podcast I'd like to listen to. Robert Edward Turner III. That's his name. So, yeah, Ted Turner, obviously, you know, his hate for Vince McMahon has probably got us to where we are now in a roundabout way from a domino effect perspective. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Tony Khan is kind of, you know, reliving some of his wrestling childhood through a product that he now controls and he can book, and it's very much a sandbox for him. Because AEW is not under the same model as WWE. WWE is a corporate, publicly traded company with an umbrella company of TKO, and everything's very corporate and everything's very, you know, there's lots of by the book stuff, and everything has to be done 100% correctly, and every cent that goes in and out of the company is carefully monitored, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
AEW's not like that. You know, Tony Khan can afford to pay wrestlers more money than WWE can, which is a separate discussion. And he can afford to take more risks than WWE can. But I think this year there's nothing really that's kind of grabbed me, and I think that it depends on how you measure success. Tony Khan loves Japanese and lucha libre wrestling. That's evident because of the TV we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
Now, for me, personally, I don't want to see Tomohiro Ishii wrestling on TV, right?
Bless him.
It's just me.
Yeah.
Bless him. Bless his soul. I'm sure he was great 10 years ago, but it's not 10 years ago anymore, you know? You know, Bubba Ray Dudley was great 20 years ago. Don't really care to see him wrestle now. And that's the same with every wrestler. Now, it would be very easy for Tony Khan to say, if I want people to get interested in the product, then I don't necessarily have to put what I want on TV. It's not a case of, I'm going to book what I want because it's my company, and whoever watches. So this seems like a conscious effort, because not booking Tomohiro Ishii and Chris Jericho in a match in 2024 on your flagship Wednesday television show seems like a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
For a Ring of Honor title.
You've got so many people just not being used. They're amazing as well. I mean...
Yeah, Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
Ricky Starks.
Prime example.
And obviously the shit's hit the fan with Ricky Starks in the last few weeks because of the whole GCW situation. And, you know, there's so many... And you know, I get that people like Commander and Hologram and Beast Mortos are great wrestlers, but they're not characters. You know what I mean? They're not going to resonate with the average wrestling fan. Because, obviously... language barriers are a problem for promos. There's character development is, you know, not kind of there. They're just kind of good wrestlers who go in, wrestle, and that's it. And
yeah, you're gonna get a great match, but
yeah,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I mentioned this, like, remember not Revolution, what was it, Dynasty? Bryan Danielson against Will Ospreay. Probably match of the year, right?
Yeah. Great.
But you think, how much better would that have been if it had a story like anything close to Hangman and Swerve? Just like a 4-week thing. You think how much more memorable it would have been, and how much better and how easy it would have been to do. just to have kind of, because I think the only story we got into that match was 2 weeks of saying, you think you're the best wrestler, I think I'm the best wrestler, let's find out. And I think it's a waste when you've got that. That is a dream match, and I know that that term gets thrown around a lot, but if you have some kind of like just a 4-week story going into that, I think it would have been more memorable. And I think it's a wasted opportunity for those kind of matches. But
been sort of rushing them a bit.
Yeah,
time-wise.
Yeah, it could have been a scheduling thing. Obviously, Ospreay commutes from the UK, so they might not have much time. But again, if
Brian was needing that surgery as well,
yeah,
so
exactly,
probably just want to squeeze in as many matches as he could.
Yeah, and pretty much Brian does what he wants, doesn't he? Because it's his final run.
He's earned it.
Yeah, exactly. He has, definitely. But again, it's how Tony Khan wants to measure success. If Tony Khan's aim is just to put on great matches, I think AEW is fine. And if internally in the company they don't see things like ticket sales and ratings as a problem, then I think the company's fine. But the problem is when Tony Khan goes on Twitter and has a meltdown about ratings. And he starts bragging about ratings. And, you know, in their first few weeks, he comes out and he chastises Nick Khan publicly. And then he's got Jericho saying, we're going to go and beat Monday Night Raw in the ratings. And then he calls WWE the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. And he calls Triple H and Shawn Michaels bald assholes. And he makes fun of The Undertaker and Cena for not hitting 1 million viewers. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. He obviously cares a little too much.
Yeah.
And if you do care, then you can change that. But there seems to be some kind of disconnect here where it's like, I really care about ratings and attendance, but I'm going to continue to do things that have proven to drive those two things away because it's what I want and what no one else wants. That's the kind of picture I get in my head recently when watching the product.
But yeah, I mean, as I said before, the matches I'm still enjoying to watch.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Great. And personally, I've never given much stock to ratings, ticket sales. It doesn't affect me, and it affects the company and the TV show potentially.
Yeah.
If it would put them out of business, but as he said, Tony Khan's not strapped for cash.
No.
So that's not really an issue.
No,
as long as they're making a profit, I guess they can keep existing, keep putting on the matches, and hopefully the storytelling gets back to where it was.
Yeah, I think that's what we can definitely hope for because, yeah, like you say, AEW is not going anywhere. They can afford to operate at a loss for a long time, which a lot of companies do. You know, you look at some of the most popular companies in the world, you know, motor companies, electronical companies. A lot of them operate at a loss for a long time before they make profit.
Yeah.
And AEW's books are closed, so we're not in the business of speculating on whether they are profitable or not because nobody knows apart from Tony Khan. So who cares at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I agree. Ratings aren't really a factor for the average fan, but it's the only metric we have to gauge public interest at the moment.
Yeah, and that's what that's for.
Yeah.
But people just ragging on it on Twitter using the ratings. I'm just like, well,
yeah,
okay, yeah. Obviously, they're not going to get quite as good as WWE.
No.
Who at the moment are putting out some pretty consistently okay to great stuff.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah,
it's pretty fair. And they're a juggernaut that's been going for decades.
Yeah.
So, and comparing them to them, like you said,
I think
a bit moot, but
yeah, I don't think there's any comparison to the two companies apart from the product we see on TV.
Yeah.
You can compare the quality of the wrestling, you can compare the storytelling, but in every other metric, there's no surprise that WWE is going to be far and away of every other wrestling company that may ever exist in the future. So, I don't think, for me, there's no expectation for AEW to challenge WWE. That's not what I want from AEW.
No.
Now, I think a lot of this is, I think there's a key pivotal moment in the last few years where, so when AEW started, everyone was saying we want an alternative to WWE. I don't think people wanted an alternative to WWE. They wanted an alternative to Vince McMahon.
maybe.
And that's what we got with Tony Khan. Because in 2019, we had arguably WWE's worst year in the last 20 years, creatively.
Yeah.
And we had Tony Khan with the Bucks and Cody, the Elite, bringing in this new, very high production, loads of money, loads of stars, unpredictability of who was going to be joining the company, which was probably one of my favorite parts of early A.W. was like anticipating who was going to show up.
Yeah.
And obviously that only lasts for so long. So that part obviously falls off after a while because once you've got a roster, that's it. Although we're still seeing people pop up every now and then. We have Matt Cardona pop up on Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So I think that 2019, and I think that's where a lot of cockiness came from the A.W. side, because they knew that Vince McMahon's product was horrible, and they knew that all the WWE fans who wanted something that wasn't terrible were going to flock over to A.W., and that's what happened.
Yeah.
And then the Vince scandal stuff hit, and then Vince was ultimately ousted just after, what was it, 2020? Yeah, 2023, wasn't it? Just after Mania.
Yeah, I think so.
Because we had WrestleMania 39, which was great, and then we had that awful Monday Night Raw. But 2022, July time, was the first we'd heard that Vince was retiring. And I can guarantee you, when Tony Khan heard that news, he thought, oh shit. Because Tony Khan knew what was going to happen. He knew the WWE was going to be a lot better without Triple H.
But with Triple H.
Sorry, without Vince McMahon, with Triple H, sorry.
Yeah.
And obviously wrestling fans were excited because Vince was gone. But I think this was bad for AEW. I do. Because it's kind of like what they were capitalizing on was Vince McMahon's terrible product. And now it wasn't him anymore. They had a different problem to worry about. And the alternative to Vince McMahon wasn't just Tony Khan anymore. It became a mixture of Tony Khan and Triple H, who are now competing, like properly competing.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And ever since then, there's been, various other things that we could point to. CM Punk. We can't mention AEW controversy without CM Punk. Now we could argue that when CM Punk came in, massive interest boost, and we were all shocked, weren't we? We couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
He was back, and then everything that we know happened. Everyone was to blame for this. Tony Khan was to blame, Hangman was to blame, the Elite was to blame, Punk was to blame. It was just a shit show, and nobody got their cards on the table. Nobody got their ducks in a row. And then Brawl Out happened, and that kind of, thankfully Punk was injured, so they could kind of tell you, oh, he's off TV because he's injured. And then Punk comes back for Collision. There's more people not getting on. We have the All-In situation with Jack Perry. And then Punk gets fired. Now, when Punk gets fired, there's a small drop-off of customer interest because a lot of people watch CM Punk. He's a popular guy. He's got a big fan base. He's a bit of a cult hero. Yeah. And, for me personally, when Punk was on AEW, he made television very interesting, especially on Collision. Like when he was doing his Collision, I thought those first few stretch of Collision was really good.
Yeah, definitely.
And the feuds that Punk had, like, MJF, even the, first one with Darby Allin, the Hangman one to an extent because it was a shoot. And it was like, it made it more interesting.
Yeah.
His stuff with Moxley I thought was really good. So that, but I think that the biggest thing this year was the showing of the All-In footage.
Yeah.
That was...
Didn't need that.
No, I think that's the biggest mistake they've made all year, because the easiest thing to do would just be to ignore the Ariel Helwani interview. Because that interview was just CM Punk being asked questions and him answering them as honestly as he could given the NDA he had. That's all it was.
Yeah.
All they had to do was ignore it. And when they showed that footage, basically all they did was just back up everything CM Punk said, and I don't know why they did it, because I was expecting them to expose CM Punk as this massive liar, and he grabbed Tony Khan and punched him in the face against the wall and ripped his pulled his hair out and stuff. I was expecting a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And we didn't really get that. And then there's a graph, I think, online somewhere. I think it's one of the Wrestlenomics ones or something, where there's a big ratings drop off from then. And I think it did turn a lot of people off because it's petty behavior and it was needless and it was unprofessional. And it struck me as a Young Bucks idea rather than a Tony Khan idea, and Tony Khan just went with it. Because
Maybe.
I think the Bucks are the ones who, as far as we know, hate CM Punk the most, or the elite in general. Tony Khan, we know, loved CM Punk.
Very big fan.
He was a very big fan. And I do feel for Tony Khan in a way, because Tony Khan, by all accounts, is a lovely man, a very nice person who wants to run a wrestling company because he loves pro wrestling. And I'm sure if we had that position, we would feel exactly the same.
Yeah.
I've got nothing against Tony Khan personally as a person, but you have to ask yourself that in those situations, was he strong enough to deal with that situation the best he could? I don't think so. I think a lot of things in A.W. they get out of hand, and you hear about backstage politics all the time. Do you remember a few weeks ago, Britt Baker wrestled, didn't she, on Dynamite, and she beat someone? I can't remember, Hikaru Shida maybe, I don't know. And then Serena Deeb came out and kind of, with a flag, and she pointed at Britt Baker, and they thought they were going to set up a feud. And Britt Baker looked in the camera and said, "Nobody cares." And we haven't seen either of them since. And that was 5 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
That's really odd, really strange thing to happen, especially as Britt Baker has been one of those people touted as being, shall we say, confrontational backstage.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was a shoot, and she wasn't supposed to say that in front of the camera, and there's been some heat there as well. It's just very sloppy, isn't it? And it doesn't make for good. It doesn't change. It doesn't help for the perception of AEW as well.
Yeah.
And I think that the brawl out thing, I think, is still a black mark on the company. Always will be. And
trying to get rid of that now.
No, and CM Punk is still being talked about with this Ryan Nemeth thing that came out this week. You heard about that?
Yeah, just bits. I've not read too much into it though, to be honest.
And I don't know who. I mean, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm just fed up of these stories. I don't know if Tony Khan released this. They obtained a copy from AEW, so I don't know why they would just put that out there, because it just makes them look even more sloppy with what happened.
Yeah, it does.
They don't need this kind of coverage at the moment. They just need to focus on kind of, getting back to where they were. And I want to talk about fan reception, social media, as much as I hate talking about social media.
Yeah.
But, it is an echo chamber, and, well, more so for AEW than WWE, because WWE has a much more casual audience. So, yeah, with AEW, there was obviously some posts last week from previously diehard AEW fans criticizing the product, which, Tony Khan has always said, I listen to the fans, and we'll see.
Yeah.
And there's a pocket of fans who will never criticize AEW for anything ever, irrespective of what happens. And I think this is a big problem in anything. If you can't you just subjectively, we criticize WWE and we don't like it.
You should have that right to.
Yeah.
I pay Triller for AEW, so I guess they get something out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So pay a bit and say what I want.
Yeah,
really.
Exactly. And we are entitled to talk about the product. It's what we do. We have our opinions. It's fine if people don't like them. Not a problem. That's fine.
Yeah.
But when you see patterns of, and it happens on the WWE side as well, where there's certain people who will always praise the company no matter what. And I think that brand loyalty when it comes to wrestling is really, I think brand loyalty in general is really weird. It's a really weird psychological concept.
Yeah.
And you know, we're all guilty of it. You know, I only have X type of mobile phone, or you know what I mean. It's like people who have iPhone always have iPhone, and people who have Android always have Android. There's very rarely a swap over on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I do think it's weird, particularly in wrestling. And I don't know if it's because obviously a lot when it comes to A.I.W, there was a lot of gassing up A.I.W in 2019 as it's going to be way better than WWE, and there was this war instantly created. And I wonder if any criticism of A.I.W now is almost like admitting defeat, even though it's not, but that's must how it feel. If someone says, oh, actually, I don't think A.I.W is very good at the moment, then they're worried all the WWE diehards are going to go, aha, we told you.
Yeah.
It just creates that sense of pride. So you have to just stick to your guns, no matter what. Like A.I.W could put on the worst piece of shit television show ever. They go, oh, that was great. I loved it. And it's just something that you do see a lot on social media.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You're never gonna have them outright say, the company say, you know, our product isn't that good at the moment.
Yeah, imagine that.
Just bear with us.
Imagine Tony Khan.
So,
Thank you
yeah.
for watching A.I.W. I thought tonight was a bit shit, to be honest, but we'll be back next week with more Rampage.
Yeah.
No, not going to happen.
We'll be better, I promise.
Well, no, Triple H does it in the presses as well. Like, let's take a really bad WWE pay-per-view this year, or really under par one. Let's take Bad Blood, for example. I thought it was pretty bad, apart from the Hell in a Cell match, which was great. But the rest of it was pretty rubbish. And Triple H always comes out and he goes, "Oh, great show tonight." They all do it. Like, they all do it. They're not going to go, "Oh, tonight sucked. I'm sorry. We'll do better next time." And yeah, you're right. Tony Khan is never going to say that, and nor should they, because perception is reality.
Yeah.
But the fans, I don't see why, if I'm watching a wrestling show and I don't like it, I don't see why anyone would be afraid to say that. No. And there's no way you're going to convince me that this many people genuinely think it's good all the time. I just don't think that's the case with any wrestling show. And I see a lot of people say that they're not afraid, but reluctant to criticize A.I.W because they just get lumped in with the bad faith criticisms. You know, there's like dedicated accounts that just make fun of A.I.W for a laugh, and everything is just, you know, blatantly trolling negative, you know.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, well, all the criticism of A.I.W is bad faith. It's just bad faith. And I think if you can't tell the difference between good and bad faith, that's on you. Do you know what I mean? You should be able to tell. So I think there's a lot of people being disingenuous, saying, "Oh, there's so much bad faith criticisms of A.I.W." It's like, well, there is, but you must be able to tell the difference. It's easy to see what a good faith take is versus a bad faith one, because social media is very cringe in that way, and it makes it very obvious.
Yeah, definitely.
And people say, "Oh, my criticisms get lumped in with the bad faith criticisms." That's because they don't want your good faith criticism. That's all it is. They don't want any criticism.
Not at all.
What do you think?
Well, you've got to be able to criticize things if they're not good. You likened it to the football we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, it's not good at the moment. There's spots of brilliance, but overall, pretty hard to watch.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Our football team, Kronus and I support the same football team here in the glorious United Kingdom, and our football team at the moment is pretty terrible, and we're not happy about it. And we tell them they suck because it's not a very good watch. There's no way any of our fans at the moment would say, "Oh, we're great. We're great." You know why? Because we're really low down in the table, and the numbers don't lie. And it just seems bizarre to me that, you know, I mean, supporting a wrestling company, firstly, is ridiculous. You know, you can't play my favorite billionaire. It's ridiculous. Stop it. But I think like if you watch something and it sucks, then just say it sucks. Like you do it with TV shows, don't you? You start watching a TV show, season 1's good, season 2's good, season 3's a bit shit, season 4 is like, all right, you should have stopped after 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You don't just say, oh, it was great, even though deep down you don't like it, because you want to keep up this image that I must defend the company and I must put out a positive image because I can't. And why? You don't own this company. You don't have any. You're just some person on Twitter with a mobile phone who watches wrestling like the rest of us. Yeah. I don't understand it. Whether it's a pride. I mean, if you've got yourself into a state where you have been so. I don't want to say supportive because that's a really good word. Obsessed with obsessed with supporting a wrestling company because you're at war with the other one. If you've got to a stage where now you can't criticize them because you look like a fucking idiot, that's your problem. You know what I mean? And it goes the same for people who do it on the WWE side as well, because I see those too and they're annoying. They say like some shit happens. Oh, that was really good actually. No, it wasn't. Just say it was shit. Honestly.
You shouldn't be afraid to.
No.
Yeah. And then when it's good, you can say it's good again.
Yeah, exactly. Like I saw someone like there was a Rampage graphic a few weeks ago, and it was just the most typical Rampage, like the most thrown together matches you've ever seen with people you've hardly ever heard of, like Serpentico versus the Butcher and Beef versus Commander and all this stuff. And I saw someone say, "Oh, this is going to be the best wrestling show of the week." I'm like, "Oh, come on, man!" Like, I mean, say you're excited. Say you're excited. That's fine. But I mean, come on, that is just delusional at this point. Because even Warner Brothers don't care about Rampage. Warner Brothers gave Tony Khan $550 million, and they didn't want Rampage.
Yep.
Nobody wants Rampage anymore. I'm hoping that things improve when Rampage is gone. I don't know when that's going to be. Is it end of year maybe? It's not being renewed, is it?
I don't think so. No.
Have you got any suggestions, Kronus, for obviously recently we've both agreed that there could be some more consistency in the writing. Any suggestions from you on how that could be achieved, whether it's the people involved or the stories that they're telling?
So maybe the stories that they're telling, they've really not been too, what's the word? They've not had much conviction in them, really. It seems like. Yeah,
I think that's a good word to use. Yeah.
Especially with the Elite, that's just fizzled out.
Yeah.
When they were supposedly sort of taking over, talk of Shane McMahon maybe being a part of that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
They were pictured with him. But then there was sort of talk of Shane with the Death Riders as well, apparently. So,
yeah, I feel like every single pay-per-view we're just waiting for Shane to come out, but that's our fault because
wait on that.
Yeah, that's our fault as fans because A.I.W have done nothing to give us that inclination that he's coming in. So I don't think it's A.I.W's fault if Shane doesn't come in. It's our fault for creating those expectations ourselves.
Yeah. Definitely in that regard, but in terms of sticking to a storyline at the moment, not good.
No, I
need to invest a bit more.
Yeah,
I think in that.
Yeah, and I don't. And by the way, guys, we're not saying A.I.W is bad. What we're saying is, at the moment, we expect a lot more from a company with the money and talent that it has.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any excuse to be given anything below par. I think pay-per-views are great because pay-per-views aren't based on storytelling, they are based on payoffs and wrestling, and the wrestling's always great. The weekly television is based on stories that build up to the pay-per-view, and at the moment they're just not for us where they need to be. Chris Statlander, as an example, her random face turn that shouldn't have happened because I thought she was great with Stokely Hathaway as a heel.
Yeah,
they only did it because they needed a credible person to wrestle Mercedes because she's burnt through everyone already. That's it. They just and the way they did it as well was just she just appeared saying, "I'm a babyface now. Where's Stokely?" I don't know. Fuck Stokely. Adam Cole, MJF, the Death Rider story is a bit of a slow burn. I thought last week's was good with the whole Hangman and Jay stuff. They're the kind of people who need to be involved in this, not fucking JD Drake and Evil Uno.
Get the big guns in there.
Yeah. And there's just I think at the moment there's just stuff that it's not bad, it's just not necessarily interesting, not kind of grabbing me. And the Continental Classic's great, and that's come at a good time I think for AEW, because Tony Khan loves a tournament. It fills a lot of TV time. The tournament itself is the story, so it takes care of itself. So that's come at a good time. I think Mariah May's title run has just been really boring since she won it.
Has a bit, yeah.
Just fallen. Where the hell's Toni Storm? She's been gone since All In. That's like
It's been a while.
What's that? 4 months now.
Yeah, a long time.
Jamie Hayter. She came back on the All In pre-show and has basically done nothing, and is probably going to lose to Julia Hart in a feud because Julia Hart's returning.
Yeah.
Don't really understand that. In terms of the Ricky Starks, obviously, where's people like Miro? I think there's people who add to the product in a big way that have proven that. Ricky Starks, Jamie Hayter was women's champion. The only reason she lost that championship was because she was injured.
Yeah.
And I thought, the first thing she should be doing is coming back and saying, "Where's my championship?"
100%, yeah.
And her and Julia Hart have never even interacted, so I don't even know why they're feuding, but hopefully we get an explanation. It's just, there's just so much that doesn't make sense, and
Seems a bit random, yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just a bit frustrating from us because, we like to be, wrestling is a hobby for us. We like to be engaged, and the same with when we watch TV shows or we play, role-playing video games or whatever. We like to be engrossed and engaged in what's happening. And last few weeks last week I thought was a better show than recent weeks.
Yeah.
But just not really. I watch it because I like it, but it's not grabbing me as much as it has done in the past.
Well, as I said, the in-ring you can usually count on being of a decent quality.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even if how they got to those matches don't always make the most sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that booking side, whether it all goes through Tony Khan or not, it does need a shake up, maybe a trim down.
Yeah, and I think we can also, we're not being biased here. I thought the LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura build, and I thought it was trash. I thought Shinsuke just turned up, and then 2 weeks later he gets a title shot. Now he's got the title. That was it. So great. That was rubbish. No, nothing of any substance there whatsoever. Yeah,
no sort of background for this new Shinsuke at all.
Nope, because Shinsuke can't cut a promo because of the language barrier, and that is going to be his biggest barrier. And I think a mouthpiece would be great for him, for example.
Yeah,
and
that's what they're for.
WWE Women's Division has been really bad this year with the talent they've got. Yeah. And you're centering on Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, which will not fucking end, and Bayley and Nia Jax, which just was so boring. So it's not just an AEW problem, but WWE is excelling in other areas, and WWE has had major storylines that have carried it through the year. I really think AEW, what they're trying to do, and what they should be trying to do, is having a story that can carry you from week to week. So it's all good having a story that goes from Dynamite after pay-per-view, really, really good story for 4 weeks, really, really great match pay-per-view, that's it. That's fine. And we love that. But I think what AEW are trying to do, and what they should be doing, is having something like a Bloodline that just goes from week to week to week for a long time and flashes out and keeps growing and growing and growing. And that's what keeps people interested, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of WWE's recent success is down to the Bloodline for the last 4 years or whatever. And it's had its ups and downs, and it was a bit rubbish last year, and it's got better again. But I think that's probably what AEW are trying to do. And if it's a trial and error thing, because it's a very hard thing to do, I don't expect anyone just to be able to come up with a story like that and keep it consistent. If it's a trial and error thing and they've, tried it with the Bucks and it failed, okay, we'll try it with the Death Riders, see how that goes, then that's fine. As long as there is kind of like a concerted effort to improve and learn and, create better things that we can consume on TV, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. It is fair to say they are trying.
Yeah.
But
I saw somebody make a comment. I don't know whether it was on YouTube or it was on social media, and it said, it feels like A.I.W are only telling stories because they feel they have to, not because they want to. And I thought that was a really interesting take, because we know that A.I.W's primary focus is the in-ring, and it's probably Tony Khan's as well. He's a banger merchant, isn't he?
He is.
We all are to some extent. We love a good banger.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like there's like because Tony's on social media all the time. We know this, and he sees the criticism. He goes, "All right, let's just write some stories. Let's get some stories together and fucking put them on and shut them up." It does feel like that sometimes. With certain stories. But we know that they're capable of amazing stories. Punk MJF, Hangman Swerve, Mariah May, Tony Storm, Willow and Chris, I thought was really good as well. And those are quite recent, those last two. The women's one as well. I mean, the women's division at the moment has fallen again. I thought it was really good heading into All In, and now it's just, a bit lost again. Not really a lot happening. But they've shown the potential. I'm hoping it's, whether it's incompetence or lazy, I'd rather it be incompetence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because laziness is unforgivable when it comes to presenting something to your consumers. If you can do it and you can't be bothered, that's worse than not being able to do it at all, I think.
Yeah, incompetence is more forgivable.
Yeah, it's inability. You need help. You get someone else to do it. Laziness is I can't be bothered. I don't respect the intelligence of my audience. Yeah. And if you disrespect, if you insult the intelligence of your audience, you're going to see people not watch anymore. And whether that's how some people feel, I don't know. But 2025, A.I.W is going to Australia. So they've got some big stuff coming up. They've got All In Texas next year. They've got Forbidden Door in London. So they've got a big year next year. I personally don't think they should sign any more talent for now.
Yeah, there's already enough.
Yeah, they got Speedball coming in, haven't they?
Yeah, well, I'm actually excited for that, but
he'll be on Collision in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, I mean Ricochet's already on Rampage, so.
But yeah, it's a fair point. Exactly, they've already got quite a lot of amazing talent just on the sidelines.
Yep,
healthy, ready to go, under contract, being paid. So.
Yeah, and I think
more isn't going to fix that.
I think they've done some things quite well this year. I think they've done well keeping Will Ospreay away from the main event picture while still having him look like a star. Yeah. Because he's going to be world champion next year.
Yeah, I mean he's that good.
Yeah,
so he can carry himself wherever he is on the card.
He is face of the company energy. He's got a great look. He's a great wrestler. He's a great promo, even though he's got the accent that we've got. So I think they've done a good job in terms of keeping him away from it for now and still making him feel important. I think Kyle Fletcher's in for a big year. I think Bobby Lashley and Hurt Business are in for a big year.
Oh yeah.
So I think they've got a lot of good pieces that would be compelling television, but these are the kind of people I want to see on a regular basis. The women, I think, need a big rejig. I think we need more Deonna Purrazzo. We need more Thunder Rosa. We need Athena from Ring of Honor. I think they all need to be featured on Dynamite weekly.
Yep.
Because they are. It's where the best wrestle, right?
It should be.
Yeah. I think Harley Cameron's going to have a good year next year.
Yeah, steadily improving.
Yeah, and she's a very, very... Her charisma is off the charts, and that's the hardest part. She can work on the in-ring. I think she'll have a good year. Mercedes, it's not been great, really. she's
I
had.
guess she can be, but this hasn't been.
No, this character gimmick sucks for me. She's great in the ring. Is a great wrestler. I thought a match with Chris was amazing. Match with Stephanie Vaquer was amazing. The whole Camille thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
taken a turn, hasn't it?
That was bad. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure Mercedes will have another good year in the ring at least. Whether there's kind of like a change in her character and what she does, we don't know. Who else have we got that we can say looking forward to in the year? I mean, well, when Adam Cole and MJF wrap up this storyline they've got going on, I'll be interested to see where they both go.
Yeah.
I think MJF still should be a main event guy because he is probably their biggest ratings draw in terms of interest in the product, in terms of relating to your average wrestling fan. I think he's the guy.
Yeah.
So I do want to see him in more main event stuff again next year. I mean, that main event picture, you can have, what, 5 or 6 guys, couldn't you? So you got Moxley, Ospreay, MJF, Hangman, Swerve, Jay White. That should be your core group of guys for like a main event picture.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah. That's just a tiny portion of the talent they've got. That's not even including people like Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Okada, Ricochet. You know, the mid card is ridiculous as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we've obviously got Danny Garcia, who's signed a new contract. He needs to stop wearing all the, cringe catchphrase stuff on television. It's a bit embarrassing. Right, flying the flag all the time, but yeah, he needs some development, but I think he's obviously got a title now, so he can kick on and see what he can do with it.
Yeah.
And as usual, I guess we'll look forward to the next year.
Yeah, the tools are there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All of them are there, but it's people handling those tools, and I think need to put their ideas up a bit.
Yeah, I think so. Especially recently. I don't know if it's a concerted effort, but even this year they have shown they could do great stuff, and I'm sure they will do great stuff again. Yeah. So in general, does AEW have a problem? Yes, I think so. Is it easily solved? Also, yes, I think so.
Yeah, and it won't last forever.
No, I don't see any doom and gloom here. I just think it's all wrestling companies go through this for whatever reason. I just think this is one of those times.
Yeah. Ups and downs.
Ups and downs. So we've had our ups, and now we're going to have our downs, and we are going to leave you guys to it. Thank you very much for watching, as always.
Yeah.
Leave your comments in the comments, funnily enough. And we'll get back to as many as possible, and we'll go back to shit posting on social media. But yeah, coming up soon, we've got a few more videos. We have Royal Rumble predictions with anything but wrestlers, which is going to be fun. We are going to predict Royal Rumble entrants using AI, and it's going to predict them, but it's not going to use wrestlers. So expect to see some very strange entrants.
Mental.
We've also got an AI generated storyline where Eric Bischoff takes over AEW, which will be fun. And we've also got booking the worst Royal Rumble ever possible, which I'm very much looking forward to.
Yeah. It's going to be strange one.
Yeah, all of that coming before Christmas. So yeah, take care, guys. We will speak to you on the next video.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.